When I was thinking about the idea of leap of faith, the first image that came to my mind was kind of skipping a stone across the water. Because like Robin was saying, it doesn't have to be like this big leap, because if you take this big leap, it's not like you just land and then like everything's normal and you're settled, right? So you're leaping into the unknown and you're kind of figuring out your surroundings, so you're probably gonna leap again until you kind of find out where your place is. So this was in 2008, before my first big trip overseas for 9 months. And the main part of that trip was going to Nepal to volunteer teach English in a small village. You know, I went through a volunteer program. I met other volunteers that were there. We had different cultural programs and activities as part of it. But for me, it wasn't really about the teaching English. It wasn't about the volunteer program. It was about experiencing something that was completely different than my own life and experiencing a different, culture. So when I went to the village, I didn't have any electronics with me. I didn't take a phone. I didn't take a computer. I didn't take a MP3 player, just books, journals, cards, and I was just there because I wanted to, be completely present, be with the people in the community, experience what life was like there. I got the opportunity to meet a lot of wonderful people, to go to like a Nepali wedding, to go trekking, to go to a very scary amusement park that didn't seem up to code. But all those experiences were very wonderful. But as I was coming to the end of it, I was like, well, what's the purpose of all this? Why am I here having this experience? Well, it turns out I met Himal, who's now like a brother to me. He's one of my closest friends. And he had a dream of opening up a children's home in Nepal to help orphan children. And just the way he talked about it, I was like, I really want to help him achieve that dream, because it seems like that's definitely what he should be doing. So I got to my next kind of big leap, which was, all right, we're going to open a children's home, even though neither of us have kids. We've never raised kids. We don't know anything about raising kids. But we brought in our first 5 kids. We kind of learned together for the first 5 months how to take care of them. We quickly brought in 3 more kids for 8. And we started an international volunteer program by partnering with a local organization. And so then we had to figure out how to manage the volunteers, how to make the experience, good and safe for the kids, beneficial for the volunteers, and make that all come together, which was, it was challenging. It was a process of trial and error. About a year later, we took in 2 more kids. So now we have 10 kids there. And I was really so enthralled by like that experience of having this direct connection, directly impacting the lives of the kids, the life of Himal to achieve his dream, that I thought maybe I can recreate this experience and have similar NGOs in different countries. So I decided to take another leap and found an international nonprofit. And we were going to work with all of these small community-driven NGOs in different countries and kind of have the International Volunteer Program as a way to connect them with a larger audience and tell stories. But what really drove that first experience for me was that personal connection. And I realized, do I want to be an executive? Do I want to be a manager? Do I want to be a fundraiser? All of these questions were going on in my mind as I was back in the US and I was separated from that connection. And it was really driven home when one of the kids got sick. And he had to be in the hospital for several weeks. He had these incredible, nonstop migraines. The doctors didn't know what was going on at first. We had to transfer him to 2 different hospitals after the first one couldn't figure it out. Turned out he had an aneurysm. They weren't sure if it was going to burst, if he was going to die, they were even going to be able to do surgery on him. So that really set me upon reflecting upon my experience, like, why was I doing this? Why did I help my friend in the first place? What did I really want? Fortunately, he turned out okay. They were able to make the aneurysm go back down, and he's been pretty good ever since. But I was on a trip in the Philippines, and I was kind of scouting for our next community project partner NGO that we were going to work with. And I, again, met this amazing community of people, all of these wonderful kids. And that connection kind of reminded me of that first experience. And that's when I kind of decided that I didn't want to be running this international NGO in the US. And so I took my next leap, which was leaving that NGO and deciding to become a filmmaker because I wanted a way that was more in line with who I am to be able to kind of make an impact and share these stories. So I went back to the US. I spent a year kind of learning how to be a filmmaker, producing some commercial projects. I shot a couple short films while I was there. And once I felt kind of comfortable in my knowledge, I came back over to Asia. And I said, okay, now what am I going to do? Now how am I going to share stories? So I came to Hanoi. I met a small group of friends that I knew from before. We made a short film together. The experience was really wonderful. And it was then that I decided that I was going to move to Hanoi full time and try and figure out how to kind of tell interesting stories. I wanted to collaborate with local people and tell stories that weren't being told, or tell stories in a new ways. And I'd like to help, other local filmmakers that want to do various things. So I feel quite settled now in that decision and where I am. But as you could see from my story, well, this is, by the way, so I've made 5 short films now. These are some images from them, and I've been at a few film festivals with them. But so as I'm settled here now, looking to tell new stories, as you know from my story, as I feel settled now, as the kind of ocean of unknown has kind of gone away, and I kind of know where I am now, there's still always the opportunity to be picked up and thrown again out into some new leap of faith.